Hi, I'm Robert Antonellis.
Thanks for watching this video, in which we'll answer, is Wilhelm a double agent? By revealing a brazen act of terrorism against NYC and USA. An American COVID Holocaust in the Big Apple, hidden in plain sight, targeting religious communities. Open warfare on our most vulnerable, infants and children. A stunning, spiteful 9/11 strategically timed all-out war transnational attack on the presidency of Donald J. Trump. An act of high treason by a well-disguised darling of the left that can bring down the Democrat Party. This new body of evidence is too important to miss. We'll even take a trip to Hamburg, Germany, where I once lived. Let's start in New York City and the COVID lockdown. If you recall, the immediate help Trump sent to protect elderly New Yorkers from COVID was resoundingly ignored by de Blasio, Cuomo, and Phil Murphy. We're talking about the Mercy Ship and the Javits Center. But why were elderly sent back to the nursing homes? Why would de Blasio seem to want to spread COVID to the elderly? Let's strip off his costume, then see why he needed a costume. You know him as Bill de Blasio, but his given name was and is Wilhelm. What else is he hiding? Would Sonny Hostin of The View demand Wilhelm embrace his ethnicity? Bill de Blasio's ethnicity brings the name Kaiser Wilhelm to mind. So I call him the Kaiser. With more Jewish people calling New York City home than even the country of Israel, would a Herr Wilhelm ever have been elected even dog catcher? So what else did Wilhelm hide? Was the so-called COVID lockdown, in fact, targeted genocide of New York's Jewish community? All those preventable elderly deaths in New York City ruled the headlines and gave leftist mayors and governors throughout America an excuse to force masks onto our youngest, even though they were at little or no risk of getting ill. The veneer of science were the words, even the youngest can be a vector in the transmission of COVID. They may infect grandma or granddad. In order for this fake science narrative to have succeeded, de Blasio, Cuomo, and Phil Murphy needed to execute their marching orders, spread COVID among the elderly. This enabled the larger goal to come true by intentionally making COVID babies and toddlers with massive speech and learning deficits, forever infants who have lost the human connection, even with their own parents. It's called smothering in the crib, a satanic ritual, and it worked as intended for an entire generation of young Americans. Oh wait, which one inflicted more permanent harm, masks or the concocted baby formula shortage? Are we entering the post-human millennium? Stay tuned. Are healthy babies also the arch enemy of the left? Pick on somebody your own size. Wilhelm. Bürgermeister is German for mayor. Before we discuss Wilhelm's connection to a global 9/11 attack on President Trump and the World Trade Center, let's understand the open war that the Bürgermeister was waging on a mostly Brooklyn-based Orthodox Jewish community in New York. With a high concentration of residents of nursing homes in New York City being members of the Jewish faith, as a group, they were already at a higher risk. But things got far worse for them, being ruled over by a Bürgermeister, and one with connections to Germany, no less. Wilhelm and Cuomo called out Jewish communities in Brooklyn and scapegoated Jewish communities in particular. Was this the plan all along? New York City announced plans to close all schools and essential businesses in 9 zip codes, most of them with large Jewish populations. New disease, old revenge. So the gross incompetence of de Blasio, Cuomo, and Murphy in handling the COVID lockdown was merely the veil, hiding something much more gross and grotesque. It seems he managed to turn New York's zip codes into modern-day concentration camps, to make nursing homes into modern-day gas chambers, and to turn freezer trucks into modern-day mass graves. You may recall from your World War II history Hitler never succeeded in attacking New York City, in spite of it being one of his biggest goals. So wouldn't Vaughan Wilhelm's American Holocaust have made even Adolf Hitler proud? How else did de Blasio make Hitler proud? Let's find out. Most know Bill de Blasio saw it as his mission to harass Trump and Trump enterprises. Throughout his mayorship, he canceled projects between the city and Trump, stalked President Trump to Germany, of all places, and even trapped Trump, his family, and his guests behind the letters Black Lives Matter on Fifth Avenue. This was public, but what was Vaughan Wilhelm doing secretly? You may recall a U-Haul truck massacre on Halloween 2017 on the West Side Highway of New York. Starting at Houston Street, an Islamist shouting Allahu Akbar drove over the bike trail, killing 8 and wounding 16. The starting point was just a few miles south of Trump Place, Donald Trump's crowning accomplishment for the city of New York. There he converted 57 acres of old railroad tracks into handfuls of lovely, luxury, high-rise buildings. So, was this bike trail massacre a little too close for comfort? A bit too much trick and not enough treat? At least regarding a seated U.S. president? October 31st was exactly 9 months and 11 days after Trump's inauguration on January the 20th, 2017. This phase of the attack seems to have targeted Trump in two ways: location and time span since his inauguration. Then the killing headed south in the direction of the World Trade Center, but crashed into a school bus 1/3 of a mile from the north face of the Old North Tower. So this was indeed a 9/11 attack and an attack on the World Trade Center, the first such killing spree since 9/11, 2001. And like de Blasio's true identity, this massacre has remained hidden until now. But when we continue to Hamburg, Germany, we see these two shocking stories converge. Firstly, I lived in Hamburg, Germany in the late 1990s and was even married to a German from Hamburg. This is the city where we are told there was a terror cell that helped prepare for the 9/11 attacks of 2001. I was there until about 3 years before 9/11, 2001. What is it about Hamburg, Germany? Let me tell you what I witnessed while living there. I noticed a recurring sticker on the back of so many vehicles throughout Hamburg and North Germany. A white oval label about 4 inches wide with black letters, HH. So I asked, what's HH? The answer, Hansestadt Hamburg. Hamburg was a major city in the Hanseatic League, a federation of North German towns and cities formed in the 12th century to trade and promote mutual interests and goods throughout Europe, even into what became the old Soviet Union. I saw the label HH on all classes of vehicles, from Mercedes to BMW to Audi to Volkswagen and even Mini Cooper. Were all these people from all economic levels that genuinely interested in the history of the Middle Ages of Hamburg? Or was the label HH a quiet, obscure way to shout Heil Hitler to those who could hear? Was it a safe conversation starter about the Vaterland? What you will hear for the first time is that the 9/11 investigators stopped short in Hamburg and failed to even identify the German headquarters of that operation. More on that in a minute. So let's talk about why the Burgermeister felt perfectly at ease, entirely dropping his mayoral responsibilities simply to stalk the president over to Germany on July the 7th, 2017. The ambush and murder of a New York City police officer, Mia Sotis Familia, in her NYPD uniform and NYPD vehicle the day before, did not make de Blasio think twice about canceling his trip to Germany. Was his job as an agitator more important to him than his real job fighting violent crime in New York City? Or did his other persona, Vaughan Wilhelm, have a much more important meeting scheduled? When I was living in Germany, I had the great fortune to visit Kris Kringle markets during Christmas time in several cities and found them to be so endearing and wonderful. So years later, during Christmas 2016, I was devastated to learn of a crazed Islamist who rented a truck so he could plow over and murder families and children at the Christmas market, this one in Berlin, killing 13 and wounding 56. This was December the 19th, 2016. 40 days after Donald Trump was declared the winner. I'm going to show this was merely the first shoe to drop, with the West Side Highway attack in New York City the second shoe. Was Vaughn and Wilhelm dispatched to carry the attack from Berlin to New York City? Is that why he could not have cared less for the murder of Miosotis Familia? Was her assassination yet another cold-blooded puzzle piece of this deadly war we are exposing? To add insult to injury to those grieving, de Blasio helped organize radical groups protesting America and the G20, including the Welcome to Hell protests, where they threw bottles and other objects at police. Who else did Vaughn and Wilhelm meet with in Hamburg? Anyone named Wilhelm? Or related to Kaiser Wilhelm? Did any have HH on their bumpers? We did pick up a dispatch from Hamburg. De Blasio said, "I'm here at the City Hall in Hamburg." Cut! I speak enough German to cut out in his first sentence. City Hall translates to rat house. What better place for a real rat to make contact with the rat lines? On his return, hundreds of New York's finest turned their backs on de Blasio. Vaughn and Wilhelm was likely still glowing by having been called Burgermeister in an actual rat house. Let's assess the damage. Berlin, Part 1, on the right side. These two truck massacres were planned together by a hidden enemy and secretly encoded as part of an open declaration of war against the presidency of Donald J. Trump. You've likely heard of the importance of 33 to secret societies. The Berlin truck massacre on the 19th started the 33-day lead-up to Trump's inauguration. Then the New York City Halloween truck massacre was 9 months and 11 days after Trump's inauguration. Why 9/11? Why 19? Why COVID-19 when it came out in 2020? Stonemasons have been building buildings and temples for thousands of years, maybe longer, and numeric patterns are used extensively as a means of teaching how to support the weight of stones and to keep their organizations powerful. We read left to right. 11, twin columns, a Masonic symbol of strength and stability. It resists weight from above, but not the sides. Masons consider 9/11 to represent an extreme challenge to strength and stability. The short version is that 9, the fulfillment, can represent a man who, through force of will, pushes over the twin columns, causing the extreme challenge to integrity of the twin columns. Now flip it over. The 9 is holding up that column, apparently through force of will and his head. So it seems 9/11 means total war, while 19 represents the person waging that war. In the case of COVID-19, was it Fauci himself given that task? Maintain the lies at all costs? In another of our videos, you'll learn Ted Kennedy never spoke a single word of truth about Mary Jo Kopechne or her death. Here, days after the death of Mary Jo, he's holding his hand like some sort of single column. Was he signaling his plans to use force of will to maintain his lies at all costs? Watch our video, Who Really Killed Camelot? It's easy to see this as Nazi numerology, but it predates National Socialism. 9/11 is an ancient pattern with the destruction of the first and second temples of Jerusalem by occultists on the 9th day of the 11th month. So if communists use Nazi numerology, doesn't that suggest it's occult numerology, the hidden underbelly of all isms? For example, Obama was a member of the May 19th Communist Organization. That's according to filmmaker and author Joel Gilbert. Don't forget, it was the Babylonians who made our alphabet and placed H in the 8th position. Isn't 8 infinity standing up?
The numbers 8 are very significant in neo-Nazi and white supremacy movement. Why? Because the letter H is the 8th letter of the alphabet, and to them, the numbers 8 together stand for Heil Hitler.
Doesn't the crossbar make the H unbreakable? When did Charles Manson send his family into the house of Sharon Tate? That was August the 8th. What day did Joe Biden and Merrick Garland order the FBI to invade Mar-a-Lago? That's right, it was also August the 8th. How long did they stay? 9 hours. It seems Joe Biden worships Nazi numerology, which is why he tried to put that onto MAGA. He called MAGA half-fascist, but we caught him giving a hat tip to the ruthless killer that no Democrat has ever disparaged, Charles Manson, the swastika he carved in while in prison. So back to Wahr und Wilhelm. You can see 9/11 and 19 are like bookends, each opposite, yet with a complementary meaning. Hence the two truck massacres are parts of the same operation, with one mastermind. So what powerful people in the G20 chose Hamburg? Was Berlin to Hamburg to New York the trusted corridor to deliver this vile message to President Trump? Do you believe a Hamburg terror cell could operate in Germany without the blessing of Berlin? Speaking of Berlin, one of Hitler's fantasies was for the Bismarck, built in Hamburg to have used its 15-inch guns to win German naval supremacy. If accomplished, wouldn't he have dreamed of ordering the Bismarck from his bunker in Berlin to load up and depart Hamburg for New York City? Would he have dreamed of those huge 1,700-pound projectiles destroying New York City, perhaps Wall Street, or even the same zip codes chosen by Bürgermeister Wahr und Wilhelm? The devastation would have been absolute. So would Hitler have been doubly proud of Wahr und Wilhelm's secret 9/11 attack on New York City and use of Hitler's trusted corridor? Hitler's twin 9/11 attacks have also remained secret. His coup was on November the 9th, 9/11 in German date format. Same for his Night of the Broken Glass, his massacre of 30,000 Jewish people on November the 9th, 1938. Today, Fortress Harvard is welcoming its new Professor Wahr und Wilhelm. There, 9/11 history seems to go to die, and always has. Ever since the Crown demanded of Ben Franklin and John Adams on 9/11, 1776, to revoke the Declaration of Independence, signed by John Hancock the prior 4th of July. And what about 9/11, 1814? That was the Battle of Baltimore. America's stunning victory over the British Navy and the British Crown, coupled with the new Star-Spangled Banner, penned the next morning on a British warship, created a wave of patriotism which engulfed the entire nation like never before. So the twin truck attacks were two shoes from the same pair, where Bill de Blasio seemed to act like the shoelaces holding them together. And if Professor Wahr und Wilhelm can make this 9/11 history also die like the rest of America's 9/11 history, he can bank on making tenure at Harvard. Will you let him? So here's a refresher of the topics we talked about. Download and share widely. You hold the key to ending this nightmare. Visit patriotssoar.com for an invitation for a free private viewing of our revealing videos and to check out our patriotic products and to understand TIDNY, the constitutional cure for election racketeering in the Electoral College that gets us Trump in days, not years. Also at patriotssoar.com. You'll love our Pure Blood Pass to set yourselves free from jab mandates. May God bless America. I'm Robert Antonellis.